Okay, so another basement testing video. This time I'm going to show you guys the two different four-wheel drive buggies. I have this here, my Yokomo YZ10. This is a 95 YZ10 with a 97 upper deck. The reason why I like the 97 upper deck, just to remind people, is because it's a two-piece upper deck with a center spring. So as the chassis flexes on hard landings and things, that center spring absorbs a lot of the forces that would otherwise usually be absorbed by the front piece here of a single piece upper deck, and it's these front two mounting points here that tend to snap under heavy stress. So the two-piece upper deck with the center spring is really what they should have done on the 95 and even the 94 YZ10. Anyway, this is sort of probably my favorite version of the YZ10. So I'm going to do this, and over here is my Kyosho Inferno 10E. I ran this at the Vintage Off-Road Nationals about a year and a half ago for the 2019 race, and I've made a lot of changes to it since then. I put in wider wheel hexes to widen the chassis, changed the shocks and springs a little bit, changed the drivetrain, put ball diffs in front and rear, fixed the center diff, so it's a much better car. So we're going to do the usual, steering test, jumping test, and you'll see how they compare. And these are the two that I'm considering for what to bring this year, 2021, to the Vintage Off-Road Nationals for the four-wheel drive buggy class. And I'm still deciding. So let's give it a try. So what do we got here? Go to this, 95, plug this in, right there. Alright, now the 95 YZ10 with the batteries, these both have the same types of saddle packs. With the batteries installed, this car is a bit lighter than the Kyosho, but I haven't found that to make a big difference in terms of handling. It does affect jumping performance a little bit. So let's do our usual, oops, just want to make sure I got this set up right here. Yeah, right about that. Okay. So full steering lock, and again, that red post there is kind of the reference point. We want to try to stay within that. That's not bad. That's not bad. Maybe I'll put a marker there or something. Let's see. How can I put a marker there? I don't want to put a marker there. Never mind. So, pretty good. And I use, for all of my YZ10s that have the associated shocks, the old associated shocks, I use the copper springs, which are on the softer side, front and rear. But, this corners pretty nicely. The only thing with the YZ10 is it's not that adjustable up front. You probably have to go to like the 94 front tower, which has two mounting holes for the tower. That'll give you a bit more tunability. But as far as camber gain and roll center are concerned, there's almost nothing you can do there. So let's do some jumping. Sometimes the nose tends to lift a bit. I've noticed that on this car. Otherwise, jumps nice. A little bit of chassis slap. I think that's at the front, because the front is a little soft. See, if I land nose down with the rear up, then that helps actually to limit compression of the front suspension, and the rear can sort of it's like a two-stage landing. As the front touches, then the rear touches down. You don't get as much chassis slap there. So, very nice car. I love the YZ10. Big fan of it. Very level. Easy to drive. It's a very aggressive chassis. And this has I have a lock center pulley on this. So it's a full-time four-wheel drive. Really changes the behavior of the car. So, anyway, that is the 95 YZ10. Very, very good. You know, on par, maybe a bit better than my Cat 2000. Alright, we'll unplug the battery here. So, great car. Really like this car. And you would think the Inferno 10 wouldn't be able to do quite as well, given how it performed the last time I took it out racing. But with the changes I made to this thing, it is really quite good. I've said this multiple times in other videos, but I'm going to try to show you why this car is so great. Let's see. There we go to the... There we go. Alright. Now you'll hear a little bit of clicking. Hear that clicking there? I think that's the front universal joints. I have to grease them up a little bit. It tends to do that on sharp cornering, but this thing corners like an MFer. Very, very sharp. So I'll go right out to the edge here. Okay, so the YZ10 was right around there, so just a little bit to the inside of the red post. Okay. That, I would argue, is a bit better. Very smooth. That's one thing about the Kyoshos. They feel very smooth. I suppose if the car's a bit heavier, it kind of helps to smooth things out a bit. Very hard to argue against running this car for Vonats. It's really quite good. That's my mistake. We'll go back to here. Do a couple jumps. And this is shaft drive. This is the only vintage four-wheel drive buggy, other than my Dirt Thrasher, that's a shaft drive chassis. It drives a lot like, you know, a modern laser. So this thing, you can really rip it. Oops. There goes the jump. Let's make it a little steeper, shall we? How about something like that? See, it definitely slaps there, but that's quite a lot of air. Yep. Okay, we'll go back this way. Each time I take that jump, the car kind of pushes the cardboard a little bit. So eventually the jump face will just fall down and then you got to reset it. So this jump's really nice. I really like this car. And it's also quite a bit quieter with the ball diffs than with the metal gear diffs I had, because the ball diffs on these are Duratrax units that actually are molded plastic. So it really silences the drivetrain more than what I had with the stock Kyosho metal gear diffs. Well, those aren't stock, those are actually aftermarket. But anyway, these are both, as you can probably judge for yourself, pretty good. Hard to really decide between the two of these which is the better choice for the 10.5 four-wheel drive buggy class. They're both really, really good choices. So it's ultimately going to come down to the 13.5 classes. So you know, earlier I made a video on the Cat 2000 and the 2000 EC. So like if I were to run a Schumacher for one of them, I want to run a Schumacher for the other, so that way I don't have to bring like two separate sets of parts bins. Same goes for these. So if I'm going to run the Yokomo 95 YZ10, I'd have to check the 93 Works that's up on that shelf over there and see how that feels. And then if I'm going to bring the Inferno 10E, I have to check my Laser ZXRR and see how that is. So I want to compare the 93 Works to the ZXRR, see how those handle comparably and jump comparably, because these are very, very similar. It's hard to choose between the two. So I think I'll do that one next. Alright, thanks for watching.